Good evening once again, and today is a Monday in November, and it seems like every Monday for the past 10 or 12 weeks, I think we've had nasty gray weather, whether it be summertime temperatures or November temperatures, but it sure feels like November. And those of us on the board, we spent some of our first personnel and snow and material removal money, Thursday night, 4 days ago, whatever it was. So it was like a summer that was really hot. We got our first snow earlier than I think I can remember in a long, long time. So we'll see what that portends for budgets and so forth. We did set tonight to have a public hearing. I was kind of looking around the audience. A neighborhood had brought in a request to do some stop sign ads to replace yield signs, and I thought they would be here tonight, but they're not. But we did set the public hearing anyway, so I'll ask and set forth the public hearing. Is there a motion we open the public hearing to discuss stop sign local law at Red Oak Estates area? Is there a second? All in favor? Aye. I guess I'll go first just to describe it. We were all here, I think it was our October meeting, and we had a letter from the residents in a certain neighborhood there dated September to us. And we talked about it that night and explained to them there's a process just switching from yield signs to stop signs. Even though it sounds relatively straightforward and direct, it does require us to do a few steps within our actual vehicle and traffic code section within the code of the Village of Red Hook. Right now, the code is written to establish one stop sign and 2 yield signs at the intersection described. I can be more specific in a minute. But what we have to do therefore is set a public hearing, take comment, and then we would vote later on tonight. We did some research in your packets. We do have the draft local law change. Essentially what it does is deletes the reference to 2 yield signs and then changes them to 2 stop signs to round out the 3 corners there. You'll see that in your packets. It is a little confusing in there because Red Hook Estates, it's almost hard to get true compass directions, but I mean the roads sort of head one direction and take pretty hard curves in other directions. So, direction of travel, even on the same road, you can be going south and then you can be going west on the same road and vice versa. But we have it there. It's very short and sweet, and that's the overview description. Like we said, they did have many petition signers, and it looked like it made some sense from what we try to do and keep the village walkable and safe. But we would entertain, even though our regular attendees are not in that neighborhood, we would entertain any public comment.
On my corner, I guess they must shut it off at night. It gets dark.
As a rule, in public comment, we don't have to comment back, but in my neighborhood, it's similar. It becomes, in my opinion, placing the enforcement vehicle or person is the hard part in most of our streets. It's because if the enforcement person is there, they're not going to run a stop sign anymore, and there's not enough room for both sometimes. But
So this is about Red Hook Estates?
yeah.
Okay.
But comment in general was about stop sign enforcement. But we do, if they see somebody running a stop sign, they do pick certain spots where they can see. But anyway, like we said, we'll stall a minute, but I don't think the affected folks are here. So that being said, when we entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay. We will then go to our regular business, which would be minute approval. And there are a lot of them for the month of October. And since we're late with our November meeting, last Monday was a federal holiday, Veterans Day. We postponed our regular meeting to tonight. So we actually have some November meetings in here too that we could deal with tonight. So what I show is we had an October 15th and 18th meeting, then November 9th and 15th. I'll just find them specifically. October 15th would be our regular monthly October meeting. October 18th was a workshop meeting. Then we had a special meeting to deal with part-time hire review within the police department. And then we had, believe it or not, our November workshop meeting before our November regular meeting, based on the way the days and the calendars hit in November. So I reviewed them and they were circulated digitally to everybody. I made some revisions and edits, but does anybody else have any additions, alterations, or corrections? Hearing none, is there a motion to accept those minutes? All in favor? Aye. Thank you. Looks like we can talk dollars. Cindy, would you like me to review these for you here? It's as of November 19th, we have in the general fund $681,025. Water fund, $197,682. Trust and agency, $34,892. Materials management, $2,849. Petty cash, $44.50. Village green, $4,554. Hardscrabble, $6,625. Health insurance, $4,202. Sewer fund, $20,000. Capital projects, $0, and that's okay. As far as expenses, general fund, there was $308,952 in expenses. Water fund, $17,288. Trust and agency, $34,892. Materials management, $4,849. Now I went through the vouchers. In general
I was
fund.
going to say that general fund's high from retirement and a village hall bond payment.
Okay. You will see that in there. The police fire retirement system bill comes in this time of year, and the regular employee, and that's about 110,000 between those two.
And the village
And
hall
then-
is 55.
55, yeah. So that's 165,000 more, so that makes sense. The 308 does jump out at you, but that would be why. Cindy attached the detail sheet, and believe it or not, probably in 2 months, we start thinking about another year's budget. As far as other things on my list there, police report, I guess we could go to that next. For the month of October, total incidents were 374. It breaks out 252 in the village, 119 in the town of Red Hook, 3 in the village of Tivoli. Tickets issued, total of 131. Village were 69, includes 4 parking tickets. The town of Red Hook were 62. It's almost the same count in the town as the village there. Arrests were 25, breaks out 11 in the village, 14 in the town. And, just looking through the attached sheet. But the details are there for you all. As part of it, we probably should add this to our agenda, but we did get, since we're running a week late, the fire company brought in their report for fire calls in October. And it was a little less than other months we've seen. It was a total of 71. And I went through it, and we're doing that same calculation. It looks like it broke, what I mean by 71, that includes the town and the village of Red Hook. The village calls were 27, and the way it breaks out, 20 are EMS, 3 are fire, and the other 4 are alarm activation, that sort of thing. So we're keeping that running percentage there of how many are town-related versus village-related. But it really is, historically, it's weighted heavy EMS. It's no matter what the month. It's a good thing that it's not fires, but it's a lot of EMS. I think that's things I have to say at this point. Mr. Trustee Trapp, do you want to go talk about
Oh, sure.
planning and zoning? Okay.
Let's see here. So we have finished all of our, at the Dutchess County Planning Federation, we finished our spate of fall classes, pretty well attended. Felt like we had a nice year. We'll be cranking up again. Maybe a meeting just before Christmas to start talking again. We've had a couple of new folks come into the Planning Federation. We have a full complement of 9 board of directors now, and so we're moving along. And let's see here, as far as the building department this month, we had 5 building permits issued, 2 certificates of occupancy issued, 3 certificates of compliance, 2 municipal searches were conducted. There was an order to remedy issued, 2 stop work orders. Let's see, fire inspections are on the attached report, if anyone cares to look. There were 3 complaints. Planning Board, there was no agenda last month. Zoning Board of Appeals, I guess you guys had a little business, huh? Yeah.
This month too, but
Yeah, the Bird Street area variance, right? Very good. And let's see here. Money tendered October 2018 is $1,253, and I guess we'll talk a little bit more about some zoning revisions that we have coming up. We'll get to that, so I'll just hang on to that until we get proper into that point. So
Okay.
that's enough from me.
Okay, for now anyway.
Yeah.
We'll get you going later. Let's see. Thank you, Jay. Who wants to go? Charlie, do you have your water report handy there?
Yes.
Why don't we do water next?
Absolutely. So, during the month of October, the water treatment facility treated 6,206,000 total gallons, which is an average of 200,200 gallons per day. And I have here the flow chart which they now provide us with that just shows how the volume changes through the year, and we had that strange blip in midsummer, but it seems like the average daily flow is back to traditional levels, right around 200,000 gallons per day. So that's reassuring. All bacteriological samples for the month were collected and transported to Smith Environmental Laboratory, and so that sampling all came back absent for coliform and E. coli, which is also reassuring. Chemical usage, the water treatment plant used 50 gallons of sodium hypochlorite, which was an average daily use of 1.61 gallons per day. And then we have there's a few issues which are being addressed related to the SCADA system and the elevated storage tank, and also some individual work orders and completed work that has been done to the system.
Okay, good. I know one day we did a water main repair leak since this report was generated. Probably it was, last Wednesday or something? And it was on the Route 199 West Market Street area, a service line going into a house. But the folks had to work on that, and they took care of that. So I know they're also working on, the fire company's gonna change some of the entry service line there. The fire company's paying for it. And our guys will be working on some of the work to get the groundwork to get that set up. I think this week or next is what they're talking about. But it is good to see the curve come back to normal. We were percolating pretty high there in July for some reason, but she came back to where we expected it to be. Thank you, Charles.
You?
I know, while we have Charlie up, we're on the energy sustainability world. We're working on that LED streetlight project. And like we mentioned at some other meetings and maybe workshops, we have signed the agreement with NIPA and so forth. They're right now doing some more design work. So that'll be still pending and working, but that'll be good when that comes through. But
Yep.
For the record, there's a light cycling on Prince Street, right between Dan Baxter's house and Robin Cherry's house, right around there.
Ms. Clerk, would you mind making a note of that?
Yeah, but I need the number off the pole.
Okay, I can give you that.
Okay.
Yeah. We had Central Hudson here the other day. There's one out by the Chinese restaurant too, but they know about that, so.
I should send a note in because it's 2 lights now on Maysland that are out.
Oh, yeah.
That need to be looked at.
Yeah, do you know how to look at the poll number? There's a little emblem.
I can get that very quickly.
Yeah, it's like nailed on there. All right, we'll keep them busy. And just so you know, our 3 ornamental lights in the village parking lot have been locked on. And the sensor's like 35 feet up the new pole. And so we need an electrician with a bucket truck who's journeyman plus rated to be up near the high tension, high voltage lines. But I met Central Hudson on that too. It's a tariff tier 3, so it's an unmetered consumption. It's just a base rate, so we're not paying any more. And the fact that it's locked on, it's a little better than being locked off this time of year. But they said if we can't get an electrician, that they would probably come in and do it. So I think that'll be our stance, that they should do it. Because I asked them why the photo cell is so high up, and I didn't totally understand the answer, but I guess they wanted out of the way of people being able to monkey with it. So to put it way high. Thank you, Charles. Ms. Norris, you ready to hit your world? Want to do the fun stuff first or second?
Yeah, well, materials management is really the fun stuff.
Oh, it is.
so-
I agree.
but,
I agree.
We will do events first. Thank you to the Red Hook Chamber of Commerce for another successful chocolate festival. That was November
Third, yeah.
November 3rd. Winterfest this year is going to be hosted by Live It Up Red Hook on Friday, December 7th from 5 to 7 p.m. with Candy Cane Lane, a Christmas parade and tree lighting at 6 p.m. in front of Yum Yum Noodle Bar. The parade will step off at 5:30 from the middle school. There will be live music and Christmas carols, and New York Frites will have their food truck out as well. And now on to the really fun stuff, which is materials management for the month of October. We sold $4,284.50 in garbage tags and paid out $1,619.58. We had 5.25 tons of single-stream recycling and 10.9 tons of garbage. Reminder, due to global issues, our local recycling has changed. Starting on January 1st, we need to go back to a schedule for recycling pickup. A calendar was sent out with the newsletter and water bill. In general, cardboard will be picked up on the first of the month, the first Monday of the month. Paper the third Monday of the month, with commingled glass, metal, and plastic on the second and fourth Mondays of the month. And we understand that this is going to be a drag, but what can we do? We will be holding our annual electronic waste recycling event on Saturday, January 19th, from 8 to 12. We're still working on the details. We usually rely heavily on BARD for their volunteers for that day. There's some logistics that need to be worked out, but that's the date that we're shooting for. We do that every year right after the holidays, so you can get rid of your old computers and DVD players and big box TVs for a small charge and that sort of thing. So I'll have more information next month when the logistics are completely ironed out.
And 8 to 12 is the temperature.
It always is like the coldest
Yeah.
time, but those BARD people, they're there and they do it, so hopefully
Yeah.
it will work out again.
Do you also pick up like old microwaves? Is that,
Microwaves, I don't know
Let's see.
about.
it's got electronic controls, but I don't know if that.
It should be power cords, not power cods. That's a different kind
I know the town takes old air conditioners, but that's not through the electronic side. They have a separate for fee thing. I'm not totally sure about old microwaves. I don't remember lifting too many in the years I've done it, so, I don't think we do, but.
I will look
We can
into
check it
it
out
for
for
you.
you. It's, but we do move tons. It's amazing. I always thought we would cut down the load, but it seems to hold pretty constant for the 3 or 4 years we've done it. Just to go back to what Jen was saying about Winterfest, what we're doing, and I think it's gonna be good for everybody, we historically had done something about the first weekend of the December that we called Winterfest, but the merchants have been doing the first Friday, so we reached out to them and we're gonna link up. We'll help them with some logistics and some funds and so forth. But today I was talking to them, one of our residents has about a 20-foot tall pine tree that he's looking to get rid of, and I looked at it, could make a really awesome tree to cut and put in. So I asked the merchants to go look at it, see if it fits what they think they need. And then we had Santa Claus approached me at something, and we can book him too, he said, so.
Can you call your contacts for the wreath on the building?
Oh, yeah, you can do it, okay. But, so we passed that along to the merchants today too. So it'll be exciting. So it'd be, instead of doing 2, which would make not much sense, we'll do 1 on the Friday night, because ours normally would have been the Saturday, so.
No, ours is normally the Sunday because we,
Well, that first weekend is what I mean.
yeah,
They'd be-
because
they'd be
we've been
back.
doing it with the Elmendorf,
They'd
which
be
I think they
the-
do it on Sunday. but-
It'd be almost like the same weekend, be too much, I think, so. We'll get one good one done instead of 2 trying to spare the crowds, share the crowds rather. All right, then while we're talking about materials management, I think I had it also in the regular section of our meeting, but I did circulate to the boards, the treasurer Cindy had sent out where what's happening is the fund balance, the account balance in materials management is challenged right now. And it looks to me one driver is that move from single stream being free to single stream costing money. Now, if you look at the vouchers, the single stream is up to $86 a ton now. It's climbed from 0. So the few months that have intervened, it's jumped up and it's taken down cash flow. And like you all know, even though Jen reads the gross revenue and the tipping fee expenses, we do pay the highway department that one day there when they're actually working garbage. So it's not that big a profit between the tag sales and the tipping costs for the month. So we do have to look at it, but there's really, on the positive side, remember last month we looked at the spreadsheet and it was a very low tag sale month, but this week it popped back, this month rather, popped back up. So if you average the two, they're about dead on for the average, which is good to see. But once we switch on January 1st, which I think technically is December 31st is the Monday this coming year, that commingled cost will be back down to 0. So I don't really want to raise the rates just to go back to 0. I think we're going to tough it out. So we did a due from general fund to garbage to help with some payroll the past 2 weeks. But we will have to keep our eye on it. But what was that balance I read? It was a couple thousand in there, I think.
It's down to 900.
Yeah. So keep buying your tags, and we have to do something to get more people to be customers, so we get more cash flow. All right, thank you, Jen. Let's see, we're moving toward the section where Deputy Mayor Kowalczyk talks about a bunch of things. Ready to go?
Yes, sir, I am. Start with the Village Green monthly report for October. Current balances of the Village Green Committee's related budget accounts as of October 31st are as follows. Community beautification is $2,666.50. Shade tree contractual, $2,350, and the Village Green checking account is $4,554.33. We did have a meeting on October 12th to do the final preparations for our annual fall planting day. And then on October 30th, the trees were delivered from Schichtel's Nursery. And Michael Johnson and Kathy Pearson, 2 of our officers, Village Green officers, unloaded the truck and placed the identification tags on the trees and loaded them onto the trailer for our highway department to deliver. On November 2nd, Dave Pearson and Michelle Decker, also volunteering her services, dug holes for our planting sites, and the highway department delivered trees and mulch to the designated sites. And on November 3rd, 12 trees were planted at various Red Hook Village sites along Kent Road, Old Post Road, Fraley Street, South Broadway, Garden Street, and at Richard Abrahams Memorial Park. 15 volunteers, including members of the Bard College Center for Civic Engagement, Red Hook Rotary Club, Red Hook Village Green officers, Red Hook Village elected officials, and Red Hook Village residents and volunteers participated. And we did have a luncheon at the Red Hook Town Hall, held in conjunction with the Town of Red Hook Tree Commission. And the Village Green Committee likes to thank Michelle Decker of Decker Construction for volunteering her services and equipment to dig the holes, the Red Hook Village Highway Department for the use of their trailer, truck, and water tank, and their assistance with the tree delivery, and to all of the volunteers who braved the rain and wind to make this year's annual Fall Planting Day a success. It was very wet, very muddy, and very windy, but we did it. The Highway Department monthly report, leaf pickup began on November 6th and will continue, hopefully, through the fall as weather permits. Residents are reminded to place leaves in a row. I believe they're still there. A lot of them are. Curbside. And the Highway Department will not pick up leaves if they are mixed with brush due to possible equipment damage. And just a reminder that the village's snow ordinance is currently in effect. It started on November 1st, and it goes through March 31st. No parking is permitted on village streets from 11 o'clock p.m. to 6 o'clock a.m. in our New York State highways, which is Market Street and Broadway, from 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. during the same period. When snow and ice removal operations are underway, any vehicle parked or abandoned on any street may be removed by or under the direction of the Red Hook Village Police Department or any other responding law enforcement agencies. And all associated costs for vehicle towing and storage will be charged to the vehicle's owners. And also, the owner and/or occupant of every building or lot in the village with an adjoining sidewalk shall remove snow and ice within 24 hours of a snowstorm, and this is village law. At the discretion of the village board of trustees, the village highway department may remove snow or ice left uncleared at a cost of $2 per linear foot. This is not a service, this is more of a penalty. And so we urge all residents with sidewalks to please remove snow and ice as soon as possible within a 24-hour period. The village received a memo on October 15th from the New York State DOT regarding the remaining balances in the New York State fiscal year 2018-2019 Consolidated Local Street and Highway Improvement Program, or CHIPS. Also included were the balances for Pave New York and the Extreme Winter Recovery Funding. And just real quickly, the CHIPS balance is $52,993.18. Pave New York is $18,380.17. And the Extreme Winter Recovery Funding balance is $7,183.48, giving us a total balance as of October 15th of $78,556.83. The village also received the memo and pavement conditions report on October 12th from the Dutchess County Transportation Council. This is the second round of scores for the set of roads that was evaluated in the first phase in 2016. The purpose of this project is to provide municipalities with an objective and uniform pavement condition index rating for their paved roads based on accepted guidelines and methodologies developed by the Cornell Local Roads Program. With this data, the intention is that municipalities will be able to track the condition of their roads over time, prioritize limited maintenance funds, and develop capital planning programs to maintain and improve local road conditions. And there's a pretty lengthy report and that we received. I believe Dan got a copy of it as well. Revenue from the sale of scrap metal was received for the amount of $247.50, bringing us for this fiscal year, total revenue generated is $1,316.50. Since the inception of the scrap metal recycling program in September of 2007, $27,314.67 has been generated. And again, the proceeds go to purchase tools and equipment for the Highway, Water, and Material Management's Department. And anyone interested in donating scrap metal can contact our Highway Department at 758-8600 or the Village Clerk's Office. And the Highway Department will assist by picking up scrap metal upon request. The Red Hook Infrastructure and Intermunicipal Task Force monthly report. I'll start with the Red Hook Sewer Project. Meetings were held on October 5th, 12th, 19th, and 25th in the Red Hook Village Building, and we discussed the Dutchess County Partnership for Manageable Growth grant application for Red Hook Sewer Project Phase 2 that we're considering. Application deadline for a possible $500,000 grant to extend the sewer system south from Red Hook Commons to the village town line. And this is due on December 21st, so hopefully we can get our application in. We also are currently, or were anyway, collecting, reviewing, and signing easements from property owners within the Phase 1 sewer service area. A total of 135 easements from 127 property owners must be collected, signed, and filed with Dutchess County before the project proceeds to the construction bid process. The Village Board of Trustees approved the determination and finding statement on October 25th regarding the properties for which the village has been unable to obtain easements. A synopsis of the determination findings was sent by the village through certified mail to 4 property owners totaling 6 properties on November 9th. The names of the property owners, along with the synopsis of the determination and findings, was also published in the official newspaper of the Village of Red Hook, which would be the Daily Freeman, on November 9th and 10th. Property owners have 30 days to contest the findings and determination starting from November 10th before eminent domain proceedings are filed with the courts. The 4 property owners are Roasted Garlic, Red Hook Inn, that'd be Pat Holden and Nobile Ayub, is that correct? Michael Lewick, Vincent Zitz, and Arvine Bucky Kuhn. The intent of eminent domain is not to take the entire property and buildings, but only the 10-foot right-of-ways and temporary construction easements. The Red Hook Common Sewage Works Corporation donation agreement with the Village of Red Hook has been completed. A date for the village to assume ownership of the existing wastewater treatment plant and land is still to be finalized. CT Mail, on behalf of the Village of Red Hook, has responded to comments of September 11th from the New York State DEC Region 3 on October 18th. Included with the responses was the revised engineer report, the basis of design report, and the revised New York State DEC application form for the Red Hook Wastewater Treatment Plant State Pollution Discharge Elimination System permit, which is Speedy's permit. CT Mail also, on behalf of the village, responded to comments regarding the Red Hook Sewer Project by the Dutchess County Department of Health of July 24th on October 19th. And final submission of required documents to satisfy the USDA Rural Development Letter of Conditions of February 15th has been prepared and will be submitted pending eminent domain filings with the courts. Also, Ed and I met with representatives from Kirchhoff Properties and the development known as Tradition at Red Hook down at Hoffman Farm, and Bonuro Hospitality Group in the village building to discuss water connections and possible municipal sewer connections from the Village of Red Hook to the new residential development. Have they hooked up the water yet, do you know?
I know they were testing the connection, but I haven't heard that they connected.
They want to get at least, their intention was to get 2 models up and under construction before winter. The Red Hook Village Water Project Phase 2, operations to decommission the elevated tank continue between VRI Environmental Services, which is our village water operator, CT Mail, and the Village of Red Hook. Adjustments to the controls that regulate pressure and flow are being examined, coordinated, and rectified. The Red Hook Village Water Project Phase 3, an application for Phase 3 for the New York State EFC Drinking Water Infrastructure Improvement Act grant program may be submitted during the next round in 2019. I'd like to congratulate the Village of Tivoli and also the Village of Rhinebeck for receiving over $2 million each for their water projects. The Intermunicipal Task Force, both Charlie and I sit as members representing the village, met on October 5th, 12th, 19th, and 26th at the Red Hook Town Hall, and we are currently discussing zoning amendments to regulate non-owner occupied short-term rentals in residential districts. We've had conversations with the owners of the Red Hook Inn and Michelle Gregg were conducted to provide additional references to other municipal regulations and the effects of unregulated establishments on those businesses that are regulated. And one more. There were no meetings held during the month of October for the Red Hook Town Zoning Review Committee or the Community Preservation Fund Advisory Board. The current balance of the Community Preservation Fund as of October 31st stands at $1,140,643.10. There was a Sawkill Watershed Community Meeting held on October 17th at the Elmendorf Inn. Discussions on the updates on the watershed and flooding in Red Hook, Riverkeeper's New York State Source Water Protection Scorecard, Name the Tribs Project, and the Red Hook Water Resources Protection Program were discussed. And Robin Smith from the Bard Center for Environmental Policy presented harmful algae in our shallow lakes, ponds, and rivers, causes and management options. And Hunter Mathis from the Bard Water Lab demonstrated the FlowCam, which is a tool for identifying harmful algae and other microorganisms in water samples. The Northern Dutchess Alliance, which I'm a member of, met on October 15th at the Village Building, and we had updates on meetings with Red Hook Together, which is another group that Ed attends. The Northern Dutchess Alliance discussed possible organization tools, the blueprint for economic development, and the possibility of featuring Red Hook Together as a model for community engagement regarding economic development potential in Northern Dutchess communities. And we also reviewed draft copies of a letter to be sent to the federal and New York State elected representatives regarding the budgetary impact of health care and prescription drug costs on local economies and municipalities. And the last report would be on the Red Hook Local Waterfront Revitalization Program, or LWRP Working Group. I sit on that as well. We had a meeting on October 30th, and we reviewed policy updates and amendments of the physical features section of the plan. So we're updating the entire plan right now, and it's a pretty weighty subject, and it's going to take us about a year and a half, I guess. So, and that's it.
Well, thank you. As usual, I like to draw out one or two things to emphasize them from Brent's excellent reporting. But one was a little bit lightweight, but with the tree planting on the same day as the Chocolate Festival, it started out a really nasty morning, and usually I get to tow a water truck, but I think it rained every day that week, so I was able to drive the truck and just pick up our debris. What that means is nothing ugly, just mulch bags and root pieces and different things. So it was an easy day for me. And but man, I think the ground was really wet. So the volunteers they dealt with the worst part of the day. It broke about noon, I think. The sun started to come out and got windy, but it was a wet morning for tree planting. And then if we could reemphasize something when Brent was talking about the sewer project and the current status, we'll work a little more later in the regular session too. But with regard to those 4 properties that are, 4 owners that own a total of 6 properties, we do need to emphasize that, the cost of this, we'd rather not incur. It's gonna drive up our legal and take a lot of time away from working on the project by those of us here in the office. So the steps we took are consistent with, I think council called it section 207 of municipal law, where this is not something we're just voluntarily doing on our own. It's the steps you have to line up to move forward to get those easements in place.
And if I just may add real quickly to that, is that we did secure additional funding after we set the rates, and we are hoping to pass that along to the property owners in the service area. And, you know, the more we have to spend on the legal costs, the less we can pass along to the 127 other property owners, to perhaps lower their costs to hook into the system. So it is a big deal, and it's a very costly process.
And there's 135 properties in the system. And we have, just for the record, we've had many face-to-face sessions with the people named and/or their representatives. We've tried to make concessions and different things we could do to, as much as we can with the engineering design. So we would ask that folks realize that.
And the other thing too is that, you know, we have been able to work with the property owners, but once the eminent domain proceedings begin, you know, there'll be less room for any negotiation as far as moving or relocating systems at that point in time.
Yeah, and those that attended all our meetings from really day one, but even the notice of determination sessions and all recent actions, the project has been determined and voted to be in the public good for the village and its residents and its economy, and that's the driver for this. It's you know, a lot of municipalities can't believe we don't have a central sewer when you talk to them at meetings and so forth, so we're doing the right thing here. One thing, well, Brent, on another topic, the Community Preservation Fund balance is now up to 1.14 million. I get a little heartsick, it just keeps going up.
It's going to go up even more. There's some big
Well,
sales
yeah,
happening.
I've heard
so.
there's a couple things brewing, and but I'm wondering, is there a position or the town's sitting on $1.14 million and they're making a return of some sort on it? What would be the first time this thing could be used with most of the land's been put into protection, whether it's easements,
There's a whole
conservancies?
project plan that we just updated. We updated for the first time after 5 years of implementation. So there's quite a few properties listed in the village of Red Hook for trails, for wetland, aquifer protection.
In the village?
In the village. There's quite a few properties. And it's, you know, the people would have to come forward and make an application for the money. And I know I've talked to some people about trails within the village, and all the properties around the pond in the back, Red Hook Inn, those are all been included. It's not for restoration, it's for preservation. So that means that, you know, we would acquire,
I think what
or the
Brent-
town would acquire ownership to protect it, but the money could not be used to restore.
So I was trying to think what Brent is talking about there. We did have a meeting maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago with some new residents that live around the pond, and we gave them a restatement of the things we've tried to do and indicated that this one item might have some implication, but it's still all privately owned land, and there have to be some steps taken by the group that currently owns the land there, so. But we did talk with them, and what was that, maybe 3 weeks ago? Okay, well, thank you, Brent. We could move to regular business, and if you notice, the clerk picked some new kind of font here for our agenda, which is a little,
I like it.
do you like it? It's
Way out of my comfort zone on that one.
it's a little fine to my eye here, but I kind of like the bolder, I can see better. But,
Too small?
well, no, it just doesn't jump out at me as much, but that's all right. Local law, stop sign changes. Earlier tonight, we had a very short public hearing. Up on the wall, it's probably hard for Panda to pick up and even for us to pick up, but this is from Google Maps. The site we're talking about, and I just wanted to show you folks on the board and the audience, is within Red Hook Estates, and it's where Amherst and Kent come together. I don't know if you can see my cursor dancing here. Right now, there's a stop sign on this side of Kent Road coming in, but there's a yield sign here and a yield sign here. The petition and the request was to keep the one stop sign, but change the others from yield to stop signs. Council drew up something which we could have Jay read in a minute. It's a short resolution with local law, but the consensus I got from when we looked at details and workshop, that we were all pretty much understanding the request, and I did run it by Highway and ran it by PD, which would be Highway would install it. What I envision is just taking the existing upright signposts and changing it to, as Brent would say, a MUCTA-approved stop sign. And then the police would know about it too. They were copied in all the lead-up transactions. But it's funny when you look at the law as it's drafted. Amherst, when you turn off 9, you'd be going west is the way we're talking it, even though right around there you take a hard bend more north than west. And Kent, you can go about any direction you pick here on Kent. You can go south, and you could be going west-northwest, more west. So but the direction of travel you'll see in the local law is based on the overall direction you would end up if you took Amherst or Kent to where they are ending up in the end game. So we didn't pick like GPS points or, latitude, longitude points here. It's just, you'll see that in the local law. So that done. Mr. Trapp, would you feel like reading what we have in front of us? Resolution, I call it 29, and Cindy did correct me. If we pass it, it would be local law number 5 further down in the body there.
Resolution 29, you said?
Yeah, that part was right. But,
Okay, resolution number 29, 2018. Whereas the attached amendments to Chapter 190 Vehicle and Traffic Code was introduced by the Board of Trustees of the Village of Red Hook on October 15, 2018. And whereas a public hearing was held on November 19, 2018 at 7 p.m. at Village Hall, 7467 South Broadway, Red Hook, New York. Notice of said hearing duly published, and at which time all interested parties had an opportunity to be heard. And whereas the Board of Trustees of the Village of Red Hook determined this action to be a Type 2 action based on the criteria found in 6 NYCRR Section 617.5, parenthetic C, parenthetic 16, and therefore was determined that there are no adverse environmental impacts associated with the adoption of this local law, which is local law number 5. Now, therefore be it enacted by the Board of Trustees of the Village of Red Hook the following. Village Law of Red Hook, Local Law Number 5, not 4, right?
Mhm.
All right, number 5 of 2018, Vehicle and Traffic Regulation Amendments. Delete Section 190-44, Schedule 10, Yield Intersections. Additions to Section 190-43, Schedule 9, Stop Intersections. The stop sign on Amherst traveling west at the intersection of Kent Road, and stop sign on Kent Road traveling east at the intersection of Amherst Road. This amendment shall take effect immediately upon filing in the office of the Secretary of State in accordance with Section 27 of the Municipal Home Rule Law.
Thank you, Jay. Thank you, Jay. Yeah, it's simple, and like we said earlier in the public hearing, we're just deleting the section of our code that describes them as yield intersections and adds them to the stop sign regulated intersections. So it can be police enforced, and if tickets are issued, they would hold up in court. So I would offer it that we adopt resolution number 29, which incorporates local law 5. Is there a second?
Second.
And then for discussion, like I said, I know we've talked about it in other sessions and settings. Anybody have any questions or ideas that you want to bring up? Obviously, I think we owe it to the folks. They live there. They brought in the line of signed petitions that was fairly extensive. I drove over and looked at it actually when I was planting or watering the trees without the watering truck. I looked at it in more detail. And it is a little it's an intersection that serves really if you live there, but I could see where people could get a little more safety if there were some stop signs there, so I would recommend we go with it. Any other thoughts? That being said, we have a motion and a second. All in favor of adopting 29 and local law 5?
Aye.
Aye.
Any idea when the signs will be changed?
Well, I know, like I said, I talked to Dan. I would think in a week or two. You know, I'm not sure he has a spare supply in his office or back room, but,
Spare time.
yeah, well,
Get them up.
thank you, and the residents, wherever you are, we did it, so. Let's see, next thing we have ZRC, our Code for Zoning Review Committee. One of our meetings, we tasked Jay and Brent, and then one of our planning board members to continue to look at the current wording of our general business district and where it ties into the highway business district, and with no preconceptions, just look at what we want to become and how our code could be changed. And I know they're setting up meetings and so forth. I just wanted to remind them all. I don't know, we have the holiday here this week, and then it gets to be the holiday season, so it's a busy time of year for folks, but we are working on it, and we'll just stay in touch. Materials management reminder, Jen touched on it before, but we just want to remind everybody that new plan of recycling, like Jen said, it can't be put off. We have to do it, and we can see our funds depleting as we pay for single stream right now. We did meet with some BARD intern types 3 or 4 days ago, Friday. They're looking at specifically affecting and reducing plastic use and trying to promote other options, but it's not going to help us in 5 weeks or whatever it is before we switch over. But we did offer to cooperate with them and see what they were doing, what their thoughts are. The biggest option to me is people use more refillable or some sort of containers where you can refill your supplies without buying new plastic, but that is huger than us. That would be supermarket chains or health food stores, things where you'd have to get bulk goods. But we did want to remind everybody, I think, Cindy, we should put it in the newsletter again, the water bill for December. It'll cost us a little bit, but it's going to be something. We held up one meeting where you're going to have to put it on your refrigerator to know what recycling week we're in. And there's, even though Jen tried to list it numerically, I don't think we'll remember that from month to month. So I think we should probably, when we do the next water mailing, do another one. Fire company, two things. We reached out, Jay and I had that meeting we described at a prior board meeting here, and the town is coming up for their new contract for fire protection. And in line with some suggestions we made at our last sequence of talks, we want to be part of that, and we also would probably be inclined to try to sync up our renewal time with their renewal time, just so it's uniform. We've been trying to get a meeting. It hasn't come together yet. The meeting would be somebody from the village and somebody from the town to specifically work on the town, for sure for now, but we'd like to try to get ours piggybacked in. They have also, we've been asking, there's a new New York State law where the volunteer firemen that are certified or credentialed interior firefighters that have 5 years' experience and have taken a physical, it's an outcome of the September 11 cancer issues that firemen had down in the city area, but they're all exposed to the same thing, whether it's a World Trade scenario or a smaller fire. The state passed some legislation where they can buy, it's a type of insurance, and we can buy it through the entity where we already buy our volunteer fireman benefit law protection, which is a different word for workers' comp type coverages for firemen. But we do need the precise number of credentialed interior firefighters. I have one number from them, but we need to know, is that folks with 5 years and with, that they've taken a physical. It's an underwriting type request, so we've been pushing them on that. So we have to remind them that we need that, because we have to have that enforced by the end of the calendar year we're in, and it's about $160 a person. And our goal would be to pick it up, not force them to incur the costs, but try to incorporate that in the contract, and then have the town, we do the same sharing that we do with the other expenses with the town, the 75-25 prorated sharing. So but we do need that information in the next week or two from them. Court audit, we talked a little bit about. We did have that CPA give us a review of the checking and the financials, the checking account and the financials of the court, but we're still trying to get firmer talk with what's the actual docket in the court. And so we'll be working with the judge on that. I'll work on that. And then I have here resolution easement package. This ties in with the sewer project. As the signed easements come in, those of us that are here every Friday, they get reviewed by the clerk, notarized, they go to lawyers, get reviewed. And in your packet, the lawyers made a color exhibit, which Cindy printed today, came in today. It's the easements and where they are with regard to the filing, except there's a key somewhere on the back page, I think. But what you will recall we've been doing is, say the first batch, I signed about 90 easements with the resolution that we had. Then we had 30 or 40 in another one. Now it's the last few that have come in the past couple of weeks. So council for the sewer project drew this up, and at the bottom of the first page, you can see it's mainly to keep it all trackable and reviewable, but you'll see the easements that are being signed now that get filed with the county clerk office. So, council has drafted this. We tend to rely on Mr. J. Do you have enough in your voice to read this? It's not too
Oh,
long.
you bet.
Yeah, would you mind?
This is number 30.
Here,
Okay. I'll start at basically just at the whereas, that sort of thing.
that'd be good, yeah.
Okay, resolution to authorize mayor to sign sewer easements. Resolution number 30, 2018, whereas the Village of Red Hook is establishing a municipal sewer system to serve the village pursuant to Article 14 of New York State Village Law. And whereas the village is seeking to construct the sewer system in phases, with the first phase encompassing the general business district and contiguous areas, parenthetic, the sewer project. And whereas a map and plan of the permanent sewer project with plans and specifications for sewage treatment has been prepared by CT Mail Associates dated February 15, 2017, last revised May 8, 2017, entitled Map, Plan, and Report, Village of Red Hook Sewer System, parenthetic, the map and plan. And whereas on February 8, 2016, the village board adopted a negative declaration finding that the sewer project as proposed would not result in any significant adverse environmental impacts, and that a draft environmental impact statement would not be prepared. And whereas the village has been obtaining easements over private property for installation of Phase 1 of the sewer project in accordance with the map and plan, and whereas the village has received the following partially executed easements, which have been reviewed by the project engineer and attorney for completeness: 2V, 3, 4V, 5, 6, 6V, 9, 10V, 21, 41, 44, 55, 64, 69, 73, 74, 81, 83, 92, 97, 107, 111, 117, 123, 124, and 125 through 144, parenthetic, the easements. And whereas Jennifer Fears requested that additional language be added to easement 83 regarding restoration of easement premises, which language has been reviewed by the Village Board of Trustees. And whereas Aleph Main Street Properties has requested an additional language be added to easement 6, and that an indemnity agreement be executed, which has been reviewed by the Village Board of Trustees. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Board of Trustees of the Village of Red Hook that the mayor and deputy mayor are hereby authorized to execute the easements, associated tax filing forms, and indemnity agreement, and cause easements to be recorded in the office of the Dutchess County Clerk. There you have it.
Thank you, Jay. So I would offer Resolution 30 to be approved for a second.
Second.
And as far as discussion, when Jay read with his great voice the numbers of the easements, just saying the 2 and a 2V, like the V symbolizes a vacant property. So some of those were, there's a property with occupancy, then a vacant lot or something, just so you know that. And then the 2 that are named separately, one's a private resident who, in the easement, we take the same steps as we did with the water Phase 2 and Phase 1. When we hire a contractor, they would be responsible for any damage, and we would see that they take care of any damage. The one person just wanted that restated more firmly, and then Olaf is the corporate owner of the CVS property on North Broadway. Same thing, they just wanted that we would certainly buy insurance, and they would be protected. And what that means is the contractor, in our bid documents, we force them to buy insurance. We don't hire uninsured contractors. So, but those 2 there were some modifications to the generic text there. So that's those 2 things. So anyway, we have a motion, we have a second. Any other discussion? And therefore call to a vote. I would vote yes. Mr. Kowalczyk?
Yes.
Mr. Lang?
Yes.
Jennifer Norris?
Yes.
And Mr. Trapp?
Yes.
Thank you. Resolution carries. And I think that's what I had for the stuff we have to do. We can forego the executive session. And then I just want to talk about 2 things, and then we'll open up to public comment. About a week ago, I circulated something from New York DOT with regard to an acronym which we euphemistically call the flash beacons around our existing upright pedestrian crosswalk signs. As you know, this was a FAST grant we got many years ago. We've had multiple meetings with DOT. And as I read the email we got the other day, they're saying, sorry, we can't do it. They think for some engineering reason they can't justify it. They did say they could justify the one out by the high school on West Market where 199 goes from 40 to 30, which is, we have a sign there too with a crosswalk. So we started our campaign. The thing I copied to you folks, I sent to the school and to Kevin Cahill's office. And today I was talking more to Cahill, and toward the end of the day, I got a call from DOT saying, well, they think they'll reconsider. They think that what they're looking at was a small engineering question. I explained to them, hey, the first one down here, South Broadway, is senior citizens with 96 units, maybe times 2 people in a unit, you know. Then we're at the library, and then we're here. It's near our celebrations home base, near our village hall, right in our village center in our municipal parking lot. We need it. And we've been promised this. It's not that we're hoping to get this. This has been the plan. So they said, well, she's going to go into a meeting next week, the woman I spoke with Lance McMillan, who's the regional director of this part of DOT. So she asked, can we give them a little bit of data, like what I just summarized there? We don't have somebody counting people using our
We
crosswalks.
also have the barge bus unloading here.
Yeah, that's a good point too, Brent. So I thought I'd put
Was
something,
this evening when I came home from work, which is rainy and dark,
yeah.
and to try to see anybody crossing.
Well, that's the thing, you
Is
can't
it
this time of year.
possible?
It's one thing when it's, 90 degrees and 8 PM when you can see people and everybody's comfortable, when it's dark and cold. And to me, the people in the car are more comfortable than the pedestrian. They should be the ones waiting. So they seem to open up a window of change from what I circulated to you guys. She didn't promise it was a given, but Cahill's people are working on it for us. We haven't reached out to Sereno yet, but I could do some recap of those factors. And I said, to be honest with you, I crossed that one a lot myself, and it's tough to get across. It's
People will not stop for you.
yeah, and so anyway, we're in a campaign. So if you're watching on Panda, join our
Yeah.
campaign we need flashy crosswalks. Anyway, and then in a somewhat related topic, we took in an email from some residents on Fisk Street near I guess, the Route 9 intersection side. They're new young folks pushing strollers and so forth, and they're concerned with traffic cutting through and speed. And we looked at it from what are our options and what can we do for them right now? I did, get word that the town has put in the purchase order for the radar speed trailer. And one of my responses to the people that wrote to us was, that would be a good step, just to remind people the speed limit and show them how fast they're going. I wrote to the town supervisor today, because we had budgeted some money to share in the cost, and it would be our PD that would move it, store it, maintain, well, not the dollar maintain, but help get it on the sites that are described to be used on. And then, so we have an active interest, and we want to be able to use it too. So I thought we would kick in, and as I said, when we did our budget last year, we put some money, as I recall, into a line for that. Not that we'd own the whole thing, but we would share it with the town. So I reminded the supervisor of that today.
Does Tivoli have one that's like permanently installed?
No,
It's not a-
it could be moved.
No, I mean, but it's not a trailer, that sort of thing,
No,
it's like in the ground.
It's a post that you plant in the ground, but
Yeah.
they've moved it several places. Right now, it's on the approach on Broadway.
But it does
before the
remind
bridge.
you.
It does very
yeah.
good.
You come up and through there, it'll be fast.
Yeah, no, that's good. So anyway, that would be, and we'll keep looking at options on the Fisk Street, but Firehouse Lane, you would think most people cutting through would hit Firehouse Lane, but I think some do come out on Fisk to try to beat the traffic intersection. So we're working on that part too. But we reminded everybody, one of our goals is to build sidewalks and make things walkable. But Fisk, not a lot of room to build a sidewalk there. It's a pretty narrow pass through the curves a little bit, but that's things from me. Any general business from board members first? We good? And then, I show, like I said, we can forego executive. We would open up to public comment. We do have our microphone here if you would like to, maybe, Charlie, you want to hand that to George?
I had asked the last time, with the sewer system, the 5 property owners in the back there, we have the right-of-way behind the new CVS, where the line's gonna go. Our deeds currently show we have a right-of-way on their property. I was asked if we were gonna update our deeds to indicate what else is underneath there, which is gonna be your right-of-way.
Well, I remember the question, and I remember we brought it to council, but I don't know if we have, do you remember, was there a final answer, or, I remember the engineering was aware of it when we brought it up, and,
You came in and looked at the maps too, right?
Yeah, well, I
A while
pointed out
back
where it
ago,
was.
right.
You showed me where exactly it's going, but again, it's in the 14-foot right-of-way that runs across the back.
Right.
And it's more or less just because our deeds won't reflect that, which is going to be underneath, our right-of-way.
if I remember right, you have these rights of way to get access to your septic systems on your properties, right?
If we had to bring some equipment in for
Yeah.
something.
George, I'll tell you this, I recall bringing it up, and I recall being satisfied that they had considered it, but I can't be specific. I'll have to review it with them Friday. I guess this Friday we will not meet, but,
Okay, now I was just
We'll have to
asking,
repeat- I'll have to-
just bring it up
I remember
again.
thinking, okay, they've thought about it, they knew about it, but I can't remember what the actual
We should get it in
outcome
writing.
was. But we will, it's a good point.
Ed, like we talked about earlier, about your police sergeant, Hildebrand, and that with him, with this bugging,
Pardon me?
with this bugging incident.
Oh.
And that. And people have come to us and ask us, how does he skate on something like this? It goes from a felony to a misdemeanor. And he pleads guilty to the same crime. And what was the outcome of this? What, we never.
Yeah, I think we've talked about it with you before, but we'll restate it. We also were contacted by the press when it all happened. The board is fully aware of all the minute details, the unique aspects of it. The big thing is, like we told the press, the sergeant is a public employee, a public officer definition by the nature of his job, as are the elected folks here. They are held to a higher duty, and we looked as soon as we heard about it. Two things that I think need to be stated. One is, it occurred in the employee's personal life. It wasn't a direct infraction, as he was under our direct employee doing a task as assigned by the Village of Red Hook. And then you mentioned levels of charge and so forth. We do know that it arose in Columbia County, and it was heard at a court in Columbia County. It was a plea arrangement where it was pled down to, you say misdemeanor, but it was actually unconditional discharge is where it ended up. But we took it very seriously as a board, and we looked at what does this mean to us, meaning the village and our employment rules and guidelines. The nature of the offense and where it ended up was stated in the paper, and what it ended up being was it didn't trigger what we call any self-executing aspects of the public officer law. What that means is if one of us does something that's particularly egregious, that would be a felony or something, there's a self-executing part, and we reviewed that with counsel. The plea arrangement and the final situation was, like we said, unconditional discharge, and it was for, not for bugging, but you said was for possession of an eavesdropping device. The sergeant did come into us and talk to us personally, but quite frankly, that would be a matter of personnel, which would be subject to what I would call executive session. It's, we heard him, and we feel that the nature of the charge, the outcome, and so forth, it did not warrant anything, but we are aware of it, and it's within our personnel realm, so that's our position.
Was there, with the bugging and that, was there two incidents, like in the house, and
I think
then,
you'll have to ask the courts that one.
Yeah. We don't know anything about, we were not involved in using the word bugging. I don't know what, it was, he was found guilty of possession of a eavesdropping device, and, yeah, that's all we know.
That's pretty much it.
Yeah. And, yeah, upon advice of counsel, we looked at it, and it's an internal personnel matter, just like other things that come up periodically, but we are aware of it. Thank you for the
you're
question.
satisfied?
Pardon me?
So you're satisfied?
Well, I don't know what you mean by satisfied. We're aware of the situation. The employee addressed it with us, and we've looked at our recourse, and we've done what we feel we need to do. Thank you. Other than that, anything else? We have vouchers moving around, and we would like to pay our bills, so if you could sign them, but it requires a motion that we pay bills after audit. I'll move that. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And Mr. Kowalczyk, are we ready?
I'm ready. I'd like to make a motion that we adjourn this evening's meeting.
I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Good night, everybody.